Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name's Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. This video is very all over the place. It is a week's worth of meal prep and planning and recipes and meals and all sorts of things, all thrown together. It was a bit of a rough week, health-wise, and a lot just going on. We had the arborist here and all sorts of things, which I will share maybe next week. I'll come back to do more of my squirrel type stuff, to share some news and stuff we've got. I am very grateful for everyone's support on this bit of a break that I've had of doing that kind of thing, and I'm looking forward to sharing the next stuff we've got going on with all the people who actually, want to be here and here, that sort of thing. So this video is a bit all over the place. There is some images thrown in, there is some little text bits thrown in, all sorts of things to just try and bring it all together. And it's just an hour's worth of a week of stuff. Lots and lots of just stuff. But everyone enjoys all these things, all these, the running together meals, like, making something with something and then turning it into something else and all that sort of stuff. And I can't show that if I don't film it this way either. So sometimes it's about just filming with the intent at the end to figure out how it's going to go together and not be as, aesthetic as everyone else. And that's just life. So I just wanted to quickly give the intro to it. And yes, this is like from Tuesday to Tuesday-ish or Tuesday to Monday-ish of the week of all the bits and pieces that I got done, little tiny bits each day because it just wasn't doing real good. So enjoy watching and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, last day of meals, I'm going to share. Meals from yesterday, we did leftover lasagna soup with some bread from the hamper for dinner, and we did eggs on toast and stuff for breakfast, which I'm going to actually repeat that today. So breakfast is still going to, or lunch, it is lunchtime. The kids have already had multiple breakfasts. This is lunch realistically for them, breakfast for Darryl and I. So I've got some cheese Kranskis. These are the inexpensive ones from Costco. They're really nice. They're like, I want to say $13 for 12 of them. So they work out really cost effective. And we eat them in a variety of ways. I'm going to slice them up and fry them off. And then I've got some ham here because I haven't got any bacon defrosted. I might fry a little bit of ham off, some fried eggs. I'm going to have some toast, and I'll have my eggs on toast and some of these on the side sort of thing. And Darryl will just have a mix of all this sort of stuff. Darryl and I actually had steak and broccoli and stuff for dinner last night when the kids had the leftover soup. So, and then for dinner tonight, I'm going to do the birria. So I have a 1-point-something kilo piece of chuck that I pulled out 2 days ago into the fridge, and it is mostly defrosted. So once I've eaten lunch, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to do the sauce up, the consomme and stuff up, and the beef, and get it cooking for the rest of the day, and then we will make tacos with it for dinner. And yeah, so that's, I'm going to bring you along for that. I may not do anything else in the kitchen today. I might spend the rest of my day doing some D&D work and stuff, and then tomorrow I'll finish my kitchen day for the kitchen prep planning video as well. So nice and simple to just do those 2 tasks today. So all I do is I slice that up, I fry it off, I'll fry a bit of ham off, I'll fry some eggs off, I'll get some toast, and I'll show you what I end up with. I add some of my homemade cottage cheese into the eggs, about, I don't know, half a cup.
About a splurge?
Yeah, about half a cup to half a dozen eggs. It's well salted, so I'm not going to add any more salt, but I might add a little bit of black pepper. I'm going to whisk that through before I scramble those, and then use this for other things. Did you want to try a little bit?
I don't have a spoon, but I'm trying to put my finger in your cottage cheese. That's a bit rude.
It's a little salty. I over-salted it a little bit, but it's quite tasty.
I
Just
don't
a
know
mild.
that I've ever actually tasted cottage cheese like,
on its own.
like that. So
It's just,
it's not It's not too salty, I wouldn't have said.
No, so you can spread that on stuff. Like you can just spread it as a dip. You can flavour it to spread it as a dip or whatever.
I've seen the flavoured cottage cheese things before, like the, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but I want to make some of those low-calorie sauces and stuff out of it, and I wanted to try it in eggs. Ham and cheese with some of the eggs and cottage cheese on toast with some sausage, and Darryl's will be the same but without bread.
Because bread is evil.
And the kids, there's leftover sausage, the kids can cook some eggs, there's leftover bread, there is leftover ham, all those sorts of things. So the kids can decide whether they just want ham and cheese toasties or if they want some of the cooked stuff, or they can have it on wraps, up to them. And that is lunch today. Alright, so birria for tonight. First thing I need to do is I need to toast the chilies. So I have guajillo chilies here, which are the main chili in the main chili in the flavor profile. So I'm just going to tip the majority of the seeds and take the stems off out of those. They're not a particularly hot chili anyway, but we will do that. All right, and all right, we got 4 biggish ones of those. We're going to use some ancho as well. Similar sort of a concept. I'm just going to pop the stem out and the majority of the seeds. And then I've got some moritas. You could use, I think arbol are the more common ones to be used, but I went for a slightly different, fruitier sort of a flavour because we don't like the heat as much. So we're just going to put a couple of those ones in there. All right, now what I'm going to do is I have some oil in a pan going. I'm going to toast those. I'm also going to toast onion. I need a cutting board. Onion. I'm just going to quarter it and get some colour on it with the chilies. Just throw those in, some garlic, again just into chunks. This is all going to be pureed later, so we're just looking to get some toasting happening, some oils released from the chilies, and some colour on the garlic and onion. We'll then transfer it to the smaller pot here and we'll simmer those chilies for a little bit to make them a bit softer. I like to put carrots in my birria. I think I saw it on Views from the Road. They put carrots in their birria for added sweetness, and I really like it. So a few carrots to go in. Throw them in a bowl for the moment. They can go in the sauce when we're cooking the meat. All right, and then I've got chuck. So I'm going to, only because I'm going to put it on the stove and it's already 2 o'clock, so we want it cooked in about the 3-ish hours, I'm going to cut it up. Because I'm just going to do it in the Dutch oven. So I'm just going to cut it into some cubes so that it cooks off in the time that we need. Salt and pepper this. And once I pull those toasted chilies and stuff out, I will brown this off in that pot. Alright, so we've got some colour and some plumpness back in the chilies, if you can see that, and some colour on the garlic and the onion. So we're just going to scoop all of that out and put it in here. And I'm just going to simmer this in some water for a little bit, and we'll add a few more things and we'll blend it as the sauce for the birria. We'll put some tomato in here and stuff. So I'm just getting all the bits. All right. Done. So we'll put that aside for the moment. I'm going to sprinkle some salt and pepper. And we'll probably do this half at a time in this pot just to get browned off. Actually, I think I'm just going to toss it all in. I'm not overly concerned about browning evenly because we're going to stew it anyway. So I'm going to put that in there, get a little bit of colour on it. We normally use some stock and some tomatoes in this as the liquid to puree up your sauce. I've actually got these jars of salsa water that I kept and didn't know what I wanted to do with. I reckon that these flavours will work really well. It's not going to be as vibrantly tomato, but I can always add some tomato paste later if I want. But it's going to give me the liquid, it's going to give me the heat from the salsa and things like that. And I think that will work as a really good base for this. It's going to be traditional. None of my meals are traditionally the recipes. I'm not, So I'm going to use the salsa water. So I'm just simmering the chilies and stuff. We'll puree them up as well. We'll get them in with this. We'll pull the meat out, cook this off a little bit, put the meat and the carrots back in, and then we'll basically cook it for 2.5 hours. Right, so we've got all the chilies and onion and garlic and everything else has been pureed now into this sauce. We're going to pour this into the pan and we're going to heat this, and we're just toasting everything. We've already toasted it prior. Some people don't toast it prior and then they're toasting it now, but I'm going to put it in separate, get it heated through, and then we will add the beef and the carrots back in. I am going to throw in a couple of... It doesn't matter, I edited it anyway. I'm going to throw in a couple of cinnamon sticks and a pinch of ground cloves. I would normally put some bay leaves in here, but I don't have any at the moment. I'm not sure. I think the bag that I had went mouldy and I haven't replaced them yet, but I am going to add those. Yeah, we got fresh ones and I should have vacuum sealed them up, but I didn't. Anyway, so I'm just adding that into the sauce. We'll pull the cinnamon sticks out later, get that warmed up, get everything back in. All right, everything's back in the pot. It's simmering, so I'm going to turn it down to low. I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm just going to keep an eye on it. Gas burners, the biggest problem here is that on low, it doesn't always stay on. If you get a bit of a wind, it can kick off and stuff. So sometimes you have to have them a little bit higher, and then it's too hot to slow cook something. But what I can do is stick it in the oven if I need to. I just change the lid out for the lid to the Dutch oven and put it in the oven to slow cook. I could have tried the slow cooker for it if I had started it first thing this morning, but I didn't get around to it. And I could do it in the pressure cooker, but it's generally nicer if you do it low and slow. So we're just going to see what it does, and I'll show it to you when we're making it for dinner. All right, it is 5:20 and we let this cook for a little longer than I had planned for a start. But also I should have gone looking for the cast iron lid because we've had a bit of a burn on the bottom of the pot, which is fine. We're just going to make sure we don't scrape that up. But we had a lot of, the sauce really reduced, and you want this as a consommé. You want to be able to, I missed a bit of carrot. You want to be able to dip your tacos in this. And it's ended up really thick and just less of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a jar of my really nice rich chicken stock into this and bring it up to a simmer to create a bit more liquid for dipping. And I'll pull this meat. So I'm just going to do that. So we're just going to bring that up to a simmer. Probably didn't need quite that much liquid, but I don't have any chicken stock canned in smaller sizes, which is something I should really fix. But we're going to simmer that, and we might simmer it unopened and it might reduce a little bit. But you want lots of liquid to dip your tacos in. That's the whole point, is you're supposed to dip your tacos into the consommé. And if you don't have any consommé, you've got nothing to dip it into. So this is what the beef looks like. I think my lens needs a clean. And the carrots. And it's all completely just shreddable, fall apart, really moist and it's pretty spicy actually, a bit spicier than I expected. But we're having it on tacos with cheese, and that will dull it down a bit. So tasty though. So yeah, that's the beef. You get the lid for this. This is one of the new, I don't know if I mentioned it, one of the new Thermomix insulated bowls. What do they call them? Thermoservers. I had all the old style ones, and I got one of the new ones 1 month for selling something. I can't remember. It was free for selling 2 in a month or something. And they have a really cool lid that needed a rinse before using, of course, because it lives on my shelves. It has these little handles, and it has a rubber trivet that can hold the handles to the lids on as well. I don't know where that is at the moment, but it's very cool. So that's the meat done. We've got the consomme going, and once I've made some tacos, I will bring you back and show you what they look like for dinner. Alrighty, it is Tuesday, so we've got to finish all the prep that I need to do today, this afternoon. It's not quite lunchtime, so I'm doing some admin work, and I'm going to go back and do that, a little bit of that further. But the request was for pizza for dinner, so I need to make the pizza dough now. So I'm going to do that first up, and then I will come back with all the other stuff. All right. I have got nothing done today because I just have felt crappy, so I'm going to have to do bits and pieces over the next afternoons while I'm at work. I did get the pizza dough done, so it is done and ready to go. I've just pulled that out of the fridge to warm up slightly, and we'll do pizza. I am going to do one thing though. The boys asked me to make instant porridge mix. It's starting to be cool of a morning, and this is what they tend to eat in the cooler weather for breakfast. They've gone off Wheat Bix and stuff. I might have to make some Wheat Bix slices and things to use up the old Wheat Bix that we got sitting there, which is fine. I'll do that at some point. But they have asked that I make them some instant porridge mix. So normally I make up like 3 different flavors all at once. I'm just going to do one up just for the next few days and then figure that out. My scales are, must be something leaning on it or something under a foot. I don't know. Anyway, the batch size that I do is 600 grams of instant oats. So we put 600 grams of oats in here. Approximately, doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to grind these up into a powder. So they're going to be instant oats. All right, so we've got 600 grams of what equates to powdered oats or instant oats. Okay, so that's our base to start with. We now need some milk powder. So I use 200 grams of coconut milk powder because that's what we use. I will make a decision. I probably will still buy coconut milk powder even after this one runs out. I know that I've introduced dairy and the kids are tolerating it perfectly fine in a lot of things, but hot chocolate, instant pudding mix, instant oat mix and everything, they're so used to having the coconut milk powder that I may as well just stick to it because it reduces the dairy overall, and they're happy with the flavour. So I buy my coconut milk powder in a 15 kilo bag, and it gets stored in a tub, and then I have a scoop. So 250 worth of coconut milk powder, and then we want some sugar as well. And again, this can vary, 100, 150 grams. What am I going to add to this one for flavour? I might add freeze-dried strawberries or raspberries, which don't have a whole lot of sweetness, just flavour, so I might go the 150 grams of sugar. The kids prefer this much sweeter than I prefer it, but they're the ones eating it, and so you know, it's already far less sugar than the store-bought stuff, with the amount that I put in there. And I just feel like if I'm going to make it and I'm going to go the effort and they're going to eat it, then we want it to be something they want. So I could reduce the sugar even more, but would they then be picky about eating it? And it's already much reduced per serve compared to store-bought instant porridge. Now I forgot to put an absorber in my freeze-dried jars that weren't vacuum sealed, and I didn't re-vacuum seal it, so it's gone a little bit hard, but that's fine. Now I bought this really cheap, discounted from
Melbourne Food Depot. I don't know if they've got any this year, but a couple of years running I have managed to get raspberry and strawberry powder freeze dried for about I think it's about like the $30 a kilo, which is really, really cheap. It could be $70 a kilo. Whatever it is, the price is like way under because it's seconds, or it's it was made for a specific order and they just had extras. I haven't checked the website lately. I'll have to have another look. It's worth getting when it's cheap and then just storing. So I normally use 50 to 75 grams. It depends on how much I've got available, of course, but because I got this cheap and I have this part of a jar and I have another whole jar at the moment. So let's go the 75. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind this all up together so that the sugar ends up caster sugar like as well for dissolving purposes. So I make this quite regularly, and I will make more in the next few days of different flavors. So I'll show you those, but we're going to go this one. All right, so once this is nice and fine as well and powdered like that, we mix that in like that. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is add some protein powder. Now, I was thinking I should add some chia seeds actually, but I probably need to grind them up. I might do them in one of the other batches and I'll grind them up with other things. And they'll have to use more liquid ratio probably, but that'd be a good fiber boost. It's got the fruit in it, which helps, but yeah. So then I use a protein powder. We use the Macro Mics. I've said it before. They're not interested in sponsoring me because I'm not aesthetic enough, but I still really like them, so I still use them. This is going to be like PBJ type flavor. So I've got the peanut butter cheesecake one out. There is some sweeteners in this, which helps with the flavor as well. And normally I use I think it's 80 grams because one serve is 40. Yeah, so I normally use 80 grams. So I use 80 to 120, depends on what I'm making. But it was 90. All right. And then there was a teaspoon of salt. I think I mentioned that in there as well. And then that is PB&J flavored instant porridge. And all they do is they put this in an insulated cup and then they put boiling water on it, let it sit for 5 minutes, and there is breakfast. So I'm going to get a lid, give this a shake. Right, so this is all mixed up and they will use over the next couple of days. But that's all I'm doing for now. I'm just going to do dinner pizza. Janet wants to show you the glove that she just managed to crochet. Fingerless glove with the thumb hole. She's very proud. Now she just needs to make the second one. All right, it is Wednesday afternoon, so I've been home from work for about half an hour. I've got to start dinner in a minute, but I'd really like to make some muffins, so I've got some for work as well as for the kids. And we ran out of the muffin mix, and I wanted to show you guys how I made it. Again, I have shown before. I think there's a video that has it on there. So I like to make up a big batch of mix at a time. We're going to do about enough in here for 5 dozen muffins. I wonder if 6 dozen would fit in here because that's probably a better quantity, but I don't think it does. I think 5 dozen is about it. Now I am going to add some cocoa to this batch to make them chocolate. All right, so I also like to put some protein in them. So we're going to start off with 1.05 kilos of flour, plain flour, and we're going to bring that up to 1250, which gives us about 200 grams of protein powder, which is about a scoop per dozen muffins. So 200 grams of, you can lower this. That's probably the top end. I probably wouldn't go any further than that. And I'm going to put 250 grams of cocoa in here, which works about 50 grams per dozen muffins. So we end up with about 1,500 grams of flour based. Again, this would be about the max cocoa that you want to put in. Then we're going to do about 500 grams of sugar, about 100 grams per batch. There is also some sweetener in the protein powder. So that will help with that. All right, now we need some baking powder. And we want around about 50 grams of that. And we're going to do about the same of bicarb as well. I'm going to add about 20 grams of salt. And then we're just going to mix this up in the jar. All right, and then to make a batch, super simple. We need 420 grams of the dry mix. We need 250 grams of milk. Milk of choice, we've got all this milk at the moment, so we're using this one. An egg. And 125 grams of oil. You could use butter or ghee, oil of choice, whatever you want. You could use coconut oil, whatever you want. And then we're just going to mix this together, and then we add our mix-ins. I'm going to put half a cup of mixed white and chocolate of the sugar-free choc chips. I like the size of the sugar-free ones, but they also have added fibre, which I think is a benefit. And half a cup of raspberries. And I'm going to put these in the tins, and I'm going to make a second batch, basically exactly the same. One batch fills the 12 holes, so I'm just going to make the second batch, and then I'll put them on a bake. I'll show them to you when I'm done. Alright, it's Saturday morning. I got a video out this morning and I haven't got much else done yet. There's a bunch of stuff that needs to be done over the next couple of days, so we'll just film it as we go. I did give Sonnet a roll of eye stickers that she's supposed to use for craft, but you will notice that everything has eyes on it at the moment. So if there's stickers of things with eyes on it, that is why. Now, lunch, I'm going to go super simple. I defrosted some of the sausage mince from the half a cow. So this is pre-seasoned and it has some emulsifiers and stuff in it because it's made for making sausages with. We haven't tasted it yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it into some sausage rolls, and I'm just going to wing it because that's what we always do. So I'm going to grate a couple of these zucchinis that are really starting to get old and wrinkly. I did something similar with some chicken mince last night as chicken patties that Darryl really liked, and I've got another kilo of chicken trim in the fridge, so I might do another batch of those. But in the meantime, a couple of zucchinis, a couple of carrots. This grater thing is amazing, but it doesn't matter where I put it or what I do. I cannot get the suction thing to work, which is a bit of a bummer. And I'm going to put some cheese in as well. I would normally, in my sausage rolls and stuff, I normally put bacon and onion and celery and stuff that I've cooked, and I'm not bothering with that today. So I'm just going to put a chunk of grated cheese in there, which will give it similar sort of, umami type flavors. I'm not weighing anything. I'm just going to throw it all together, and I will put a couple of eggs. Kavik, want to grab me a couple of eggs, please? And 2, buddy. A couple of eggs and some breadcrumbs in here as well.
The bowl was hungry.
Sonnet's sitting here eating stuff as I make it. I got a couple of sad looking spring onions too that I'm just going to take the sad bits off and dice up nice and fine. Alright, so then I've got 2 kilos of the sausage mince. Now normally I do a mix of meats in my sausage rolls, but we're going to be doing all beef with this one. So we got those two. You want to start mixing that together for me? Wash your hands in. And I'm just going to do a sprinkle of panko. I don't think it should need too much because there's emulsifiers in the mince. And we're just going to mix it together, have a look at the texture of it, and then we're going to put it in puff pastry and bake sausage rolls off. All right, I didn't pull the pastry out early enough, so it's still a little firm. I won't be able to roll it just yet, but what we'll do is we'll start with the filling. So all we do is we create a log in the middle of the pastry, and we want it to be just under a third. Because we want to be able to wrap it. Now sometimes I get a bit overzealous and I start with too much out and then I have to remove some, but that's fine. So we're just creating that log in the middle, and the veggies and stuff are a bit coarse from that grater. I probably should have done them in the Thermomix to blend them through a little bit better. With the chicken, I did the chicken and the veggies in the Thermomix because the chicken was more coarse anyway, but because this meat was already emulsified, I didn't want to run it through the Thermomix. I probably should have just run all the veggies and the cheese through it and got it a bit smaller, but it's not going to matter because it's wrapped in pastry. So I'm just going to do this and wait for the pastry to soften a bit more, and then I'll bring it back. And then we just roll them. So we just pull the pastry, tuck them, roll them, and you just want the pastry to meet and have a little bit of overlap. So if at this point it was a bit too much filling, I could just scrape some off there, but the pastry is going to overlap, so it works fine. And just like that, and then they're ready to go on the pan. Now I normally cut them before I bake them just because it means less cooking time, but it also gives more crispy ends, and I like the crispy ends. So I'm just going to get a baking tray. We're going to keep on rolling these, and then we will get them ready to be cooked. All right, so this is them cut up. I'm going to egg wash them and put sesame seeds on them before I bake them. We do have some mince left over too that I'm going to just put into patties for Darryl so he doesn't have the pastry, and cook all this off, and this will be lunch. I'll show them to you when they're done. My mic's just about flat, so. All right, it is Sunday. Darryl is at church with some of the kids are home, and I have been slack with filming and stuff, and I'm going to have to put what I filmed for this week all together, and I might have to do a few voiceover type things just to join them together, or, you know, come in and say something in between them, past dated. But it is Sunday. We are doing a few things today that will probably finish off this video, and then the plan is to maybe do I want to do some really fancy flavoured hot cross buns next, for maybe Monday, Tuesday for the week. But anyway, what I am doing today though, so I need to do instant porridge flavours. I'm trying to think what else I need to do, but I did buy a slow cooker. So I talked about this a while back. Got lots of recommendations for this particular brand. I ended up finding it at Harris Scarfs. It was cheaper than that, which is still pretty cheap. $79.95 is what the retail price was, but it was on sale. I can't remember how much I paid for it. I'll have to have a look, but it was cheaper than that, which was a really good price. I only wanted a really basic slow cooker. I don't want anything that does other functions because they all take too much power, and so I'm not going to use them anyway, so it's kind of pointless. So what I wanted was something that was just a slow cooker. So this one worked well. Everyone recommended it. Now, I haven't tried using a slow cooker on the new Solar, but the new Solar has been set up in such a way that I should be able to. It runs lots of other things. I've run a slushy machine on it. I've cooked in the Thermomix on it, all sorts of things. So it should be perfectly fine. the way we've got our solar set up now is there's not a whole lot of strain on the kitchen solar because we've diverted other things to other systems. So yeah, I'm hoping that's going to work, but I am going to go with a simple one today. I'm going to make beef pie filling, and I'm using rump because that's what I defrosted, and that will be a really nice, simple, like it won't take very long to cook because it's rump. So I'm going to give this a rinse, but I just want to, it's a bit dusty. All right, I'm going to give this a rinse. I got the ceramic bowl because I do like the ones where you can sear things on the stove in the bowl before you put them in, but most of them were multi-cookers, and as I said, I just didn't really see the need for a multi-cooker because I'm not going to use any of those other functions, so why pay extra for them? So I just got the ceramic bowl, basic 7 litre. It's got low, high and warm, and we should be good. So I'm going to give this a rinse, and then I'm going to start getting everything together that I need. So I'm going to start with the onions, and I'm going to fry them off in a pan. I'm going to flour my beef and fry it off in a pan as well. As I said, if it was one of the pots that could be done on the stove, I'd do it all in one, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in the pan, and then I'm going to deglaze that pan, and I will scrape all the goodness out of that pan into the slow cooker as well. So I'm just going to slice these up fairly fine, get them a little bit caramelized. I really need to, at some point, caramelize off a whole lot of onions and can them so that when I want to start these recipes with caramelized onion, all I need is a jar, because you can just caramelize onions and then pressure can them as is straight in the jar. I love caramelized onion jam, which is done in the water bath canner because it's a higher acid and it's good for like spreading on things. It's a bit sweeter, but the plain caramelized onions you can pressure can as well. So I need to do that. So all I'm doing is slicing these up. We're going to caramelize them a bit, and then I'll get the beef out. We'll flour and season it so I can fry it off a little bit. And all of these steps are completely optional. You can just throw everything straight in the slow cooker without doing any of that. But I do like the added flavour, texture, colour that it gives. So we're going to do that first. And then I'll probably need to charge my camera. I charged my mic yesterday, but looking at the battery on the camera, it needs charging. Camera's going to be a little bit lower than normal because I've taken the handle off so I could go and charge it. So I've got the beef in here. I'm going to salt and pepper and flour the beef, if I can find any spices ready. Okay, I've got some pepper here, and I need to fill my salt pig. Alright, so we've just lightly floured the beef so we can cook that off. I'm going to wash my hands. I overcooked my onions a little bit because I walked away to do something and then got sidetracked, but that's fine. So some are a little bit browner than others, but we're going to transfer these into the slow cooker pot. And then I'm going to add a bit more oil, and we're going to cook off the beef. Actually, I have some bacon here. I might put the bacon in first, and then we'll have the fat from the bacon to hook the beef off in. Right, so we've got the bacon fat in there, and we're going to cook off these rump cubes. I'm going to spread them out because we want some colour and texture on each piece if we can do so. So we're not going to overcrowd the pan. I'll cook it off in 2 different batches. This is only a kilo-ish of rump, so we'll cook that batch off, then we'll put the other half in. Alright, that's all the beef done. I've got a couple of carrots here that I'm going to put in the bottom, and a jar of the mushroom stock that I canned. So I'm going to use that to deglaze the pan. Get all that flavour off the bottom that's there from the the beef. So we're just going to simmer this very slightly to get all that flavour off. Now other things I will add, which I may as well add here, is some Worcestershire sauce, homemade stuff, so nice and generous. A little bit of balsamic vinegar, which is like my alternative to using red wine. Tiny bit of soy sauce, and we will probably use a bit more liquid and some of the gravy powder as well but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get this going in the slow cooker, get this starting to cook, and then I'm going to assess. I don't want to add the gravy powder too soon because it's going to create more liquid as this all cooks. So I know slow cookers you're supposed to be able to just throw everything in and it just does it, and it does. Honestly, if that's the way you want to do it, it's fine. I just use them as an accessory type thing. The idea is that if I try and slow cook things on the stove top, they nearly always burn to the bottom because it's a gas cooktop. If I put them in the oven, then I'm running the gas for the whole oven to cook one slow cook pot. So the idea here is that I'm doing it in the slow cooker as an adjunct, but I'm not a huge fan of the recipes where everything just gets thrown in and it does what it does. I'm fussy like that. So now that I've taken all the bottom off this, I'm going to pour this in the slow cooker. I'm just going to turn the slow cooker on. I will probably put it on high for about 20 minutes just to get it up to temp, and then stick it on low, and we will come back and assess it. Now I must say that I didn't realise it didn't have a light anywhere. There is no light on here to tell you whether it's on and off. It's on. Yeah, there's nothing to tell you that it's running, and if I had have known that, it might have been a deal breaker on this model. I really would have liked just a little blue light or something that told me that it was on. Yeah. So anyone thinking about this model, something to note. So I just recorded a minute of stuff and my mic was not turned on. So you'll have to excuse my shirt. I had some noodles for lunch. Can you tell? I thought about changing it and then I went, it's just more washing unnecessarily. I'm going to get dirty anyway. Need to get a few things done. One of those things though involves, I've got a kilo of chicken trim here that I defrosted. Now I turned a kilo of it into these chicken patties the other day, similar to what I did with the beef filling that I just put in the sausage rolls, and Darryl really liked them. We had them for dinner with veggies for one night. And so I'm going to turn this other kilo into those chicken patties, fry them off, and Darryl can use them to eat over the next 3 or 4 days, as whenever he wants something to eat, he can eat it, and the kids can have them as well. So I've got zucchini, garlic, some spring onion, and some carrot in here. I did grate it with the rotary grater last time, but I ended up having to break it down a little bit further anyway. So I'm going to start by just mincing that in the Thermomix, breaking that down a little bit, and then I'm going to put the so we've just got that minced up. I've got the chicken mince now. I did this in a bowl and then moved it to the Thermomix in 2 batches last time, so this might not work quite as well. Let's see how we go. I'm going to get I purposely used this one so I could insert the spatula down the middle. So let me wash my hands, grab the spatula. We'll give this a quick mix, and then all we want to do is just pulse and break down that chicken a little bit because it just didn't stay together very well as a patty. I'm going to put 2 eggs in here. I'm going to put some grated cheese. I've only got a little bit that I've got hand grated, and I don't want to pull everything out to grate some more in a block, and this bag could do with a wash anyway. So this silicone bag, I was making birria while using this bag, so it's got a bit of grease on it, so I'll give this a wash. So I grabbed some of the pre-grated pizza cheese out. Just use the end of the bag in there. Probably about 150 grams of cheese, I would say. And then I'm going to put some panko crumbs in as well, probably about 100 grams. I'm going to put a heavy pinch of salt in there as well. And I just used Speed 5 and the spatula. This cheese hasn't broken down, so I'm just going to put this aside and I'll whiz that separately to add. We'll throw it all in a bowl otherwise. And we've got what basically comes to chicken nugget mix that we're not crumbing because we've put a little bit of crumb in it, a little bit of cheese in it. And so it'll work just like that. So I'm just going to break up that cheese. Alright, so we've just shredded that cheese properly because it was frozen and it couldn't be shredded in amongst everything else, and we'll blend that through by hand. And I'll wash my hands yet again. Really am looking forward to the sink being moved because it'll be just here, like it'll just be at the end of this bench here. This will be an island in the middle and I'll be able to walk around it, and the sink will just be up the top. It will be so much nicer. Alright, so that's all we've done. Now we've got this chicken mince patty type thing, and all I'm going to do is fry them off in a bit of oil, just like that. So yeah, let me get a pan sorted and everything. I'll fry them off. I'll show them to you when they're done. Alright, so this is what the little chicken patties look like. They're slightly crispy on the outside, nice and moist in the middle. Darryl's already had a couple. I'm just letting them come down to room temperature, and then I will put them in a container in the fridge. So they are done. Next thing I want to do is mix up some muffins, get them in the oven, and then I'm going to work on the instant porridge flavors. So 2 dozen muffins. So I'm going to use my premix that I made up, and I'm going to do 840 of this. Now, I overcooked the first batch a little bit. They were a little bit crumbly, and that was purely on me. I walked away from the oven, was doing something else, and when I came back, yeah. So I have to remember to be a bit more careful with the cooking time on this batch. So we've got 840 of that. We want 500 of milk of a sort. I've got a tin of coconut cream, and then I'm going to top it up with some water. So we're going to bring it up to the 1340. Alright, I need to grab a couple of eggs. I'm going to use 3 just because these are Arakuna eggs and they're just a bit small. So I'm going to use 3 instead of 2. Three eggs. What else do I add in here? I need my mix-ins, but was there anything else? Having a mind blank. I'm just going to check my notes. 420, 251 oil. So I want 250 mils of oil. Again, you can use butter, fat of some sort. Oil works well for muffins. We're using olive oil here, just the Costco blend of olive oil, which is much the same price per 100 as butter. But I just find a whole lot easier. So I'm just going to bring that together, and then I'll grab my mix-ins out. Don't mix too much, just to make sure that you pick up all the flour and there's no significant dry spots. Alright, I'll grab my mix-ins. Just stick with the old favourite because it's the easiest thing to access in the freezer at the moment. I really need to rearrange all that meat. So we want a cup, I'm just going to use the end of this bag, a cup of mixed-ins per batch. So we've got about a cup of raspberries, and then whatever's left here will probably be a cup as well, because that's about what we used last time. So yeah, half a bag each of the white and dark. The sugar-free chips, as I said, I reduce sugar where we can. Using these sugar-free chips, when they're on sale, are a very similar price per 100 as Cadbury chips. Not when they're full price, but I don't buy anything full price. Which is why I've got still like 4 packets in the freezer because I buy a few when they're on sale. And not only are they sugar free, but they have 19 grams of fibre per 100. So you've got additional fibre in these muffins to go along with what's already in them with the protein powders and stuff like that. So it's just about adding nutritional density where I can in something that the kids enjoy eating. That's what it comes down to anyway. So this is 24 muffins. I'm going to throw them in muffin tins like I have been and get them in the oven. All right, so we're now at Monday morning and I left off in a hurry last night. I didn't end up showing you the stew once it was done. It was delicious though. We had the arborist come around in the afternoon and one of the trees we needed him to take down was in the yard, so we had to put the dogs on leads and keep them confined while he was doing that. But I also crashed out for about an hour. My body just decided that was it. I couldn't do any more. So I didn't get anything else done other than mashing potato and serving dinner. And we got the trees down and things like that. It's now Monday morning. I've spent the morning getting some schoolwork set up for the kids and stuff for the week and that sort of thing. I'm going to make some lunch. And then I have to do the other things that I didn't get done yesterday as well. The other flavours of instant porridge that I didn't get done. Amongst other things. When I put this video together, it's going to be all over the place. So I'm going to have to come in and do what I need to do to get it to work. But that's life. So I've got half a cabbage that we cut open for something the other day. Now, once the cabbages are open, you sort of have to use them within a few days. When they're whole, they last almost indefinitely in the bottom of the chest fridge, but once you've cut them open, they just don't last. So I've got the I'm going to make okonomiyaki. I've got the chicken patties that I made yesterday, so I think that will be nice to go with it. The pigs and chickens will enjoy these offcuts, so we just trim anything that's got a bit of discoloration on it, and we go through it as we go through it. Like as I cut it up, I'll go through it. And we work like that. So just taking anything that's a bit discoloured off, because the animals like it as a treat. Realistically, it's not going to hurt us. It's not mould, it's just oxidization. But it's not as pleasant to look at. I'll take the main core out, and then there we go. We've got most of half a cabbage to use and some scraps for the animals. I've got a couple of spring onions as well. Alright, so my okonomiyaki is very much throw together like everything else I make. I do believe I've got it on the website though as a, written guideline of how to put it together. But it really is personal choice as to how you like to eat it and the flavours that you like to put in it, how you like your cabbage chopped, whether you like it really fine or a bit chunkier, and all those sorts of things. But the basics are the same. I need to turn my fly spray on. I seem to be inundated with flies at the moment. Alright, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to slice this up. I like it fairly fine, but I'm not fussy. So I can use the Thermomix grater to grate the cabbage too, but it's just more dishes, and I'm not doing a large amount. I use it for when I'm doing things like sauerkraut and stuff, when I'm doing multiple heads of cabbage, but for something like this I tend to just use a knife. I've got some spring onions to use. Sometimes I use onion flakes, sometimes I use normal onion minced up. It really just depends what I've got on hand. But I've still got some spring onions to use up, so we're using those for this batch. And then I need we mix some flour in first. You can add any other sort of grated vegetables here too. Okonomiyaki is more classically just cabbage, but you can add whatever you want. Alright, now I'm going to add flour. It's probably about 1.5 cups. for this quantity, but we can always add more if needed. I like to mix it through and coat the cabbage before I add the wet because I just find it easier to blend that way. So we got flour on here. Now you can make these keto, but I don't bother. Darryl is mostly keto, but things like this, he's just been, you know, this is just a higher carb day. So flour. Now we need eggs. All right, I've added 6 eggs. I'm going to add a good glug of soy sauce, and then we're going to add some water. Start off with about half a cup, about 125 mils, and then we'll go from there. So now I'm just going to go in and mix it. You can use a spoon, you can use whatever you want, but I find that I want to break the cabbage up a little bit as I go. So I find that squishing it like this works the best, and then I just wash my hands as per usual. So we're letting that flour, water, eggs and everything make a bit of a batter. You can make the batter separately and pour it over the cabbage. Just means another bowl. And I find you still have to do this to get it to blend well anyway. Alright, so now we're probably going to go in with the same amount of flour and water that we just did and get it to the consistency we want, which is that every bit of cabbage has enough batter on it that it sticks together when you fry it. But that's where that whole, I say this every time I make it, but I haven't made it in a while, this is where the whole personal preference comes in. Because some people like their vegetable fritters, which is basically what this is, with a whole lot of batter and a little bit of veg. I like mine to be mostly vegetable, and the batter just holds its shape while it's frying. So I'm going to add the same again, flour and water. I'll bring it back when I get it to where I want it. In regards to cooking them, I like to put a layer of oil on the bottom of my pan because I like the edges of the veggies to be crispy. But if you want them really soft, then you want more of a dry pan. And then all I do is I tend to make them in smaller ones because they cook quicker, and I just use a ladle, or I've got the ice cream scoop just because it was handy, and I just pat them out into oval rounds, whatever, and we cook them off small like this. And so you can see that there's little sort of like lace work in between the cabbage. That's the way I like it. I like it to have lots of cabbage, a little bit of batter to hold them together and give it that alternate texture, but that's it. So I'm just going to fry them all off, and then we'll serve them up with those chicken patties and sides. Right, now as I said, I need to get these scraps out. I like mine on the edge of crispy, on the edge of burnt. I like mine crispy on the edge of burnt, and so I cook them to varying levels. There's some that are softer in here and some that are more crispy, because some kids like them how I like them and some kids like them soft. So I've got the last 2 of those cooking. This is how we serve it. So this is the cabbage pancakes. Now I've got some of the chicken patties that I've just reheated, and these were chicken and vegetable, all sorts of things that I cooked up to be used however we wanted to use them. Darryl likes to eat them just as a snack, but what I've done is I've heated some up, and then what we tend to do is we sort of sprinkle them over the okonomiyaki, and then we use sweet soy, and we do a drizzle like that, and then we have our homemade roasted garlic mayo, which is a bit thicker than is easy to make look pretty, but a few little dollops of this around the plate, and then that's what we do. Some like more soy, more mayo, whatever, however anyone wants it, and that's how we serve it up. Obviously, this is a decent serve because it is my lunch. I don't eat. I have coffee for breakfast, and then we eat lunch, and then we have dinner. So Darryl and I don't snack. So our plate sizings are quite significant. Because that's all we eat in a day. But the kids will have less. And then the rest goes in the fridge, and they can be eaten from cold, straight from the fridge. Darryl does regularly, or can be reheated in the pan. So that's task 1 done for the day.